So welcome to the third episode of SEO Tales, and I'm joined again by Mr. Itamar Blower, or Blower, however you say it in posh English accent. I've still not actually figured out. Is it Blower or Blower?
The latter, I think, but maybe it's just the Scottish in you kind of forces that. Yeah.
I'll get it right after like episode 10. I'll probably get it right.
We'll keep track. Yeah.
So welcome to episode 3 anyway, everyone. And today, what we're going to be talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about content marketing. And obviously, content marketing is massively important now, as it always has been, but especially when, everyone's at home during the pandemic lockdown, and, you need to find ways of writing the right type of content to your audiences. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, content marketing is it's one of those, I think, over the years, it has evolved, and people somehow twist content marketing to be a lot more difficult than it really is, in my opinion anyway. The core basics of writing content and stuff like that are important for a website, but people kind of get it all confused in their head. And, even today, I'm still getting people talking about keyword density and stuff. I actually had someone mention that to me. One of the guys that I gave away the course to was messaging me talking about keyword gold dust density or something, and I'm like, what? And then I kind of put two and two together and thought they were talking about keyword density, which they were. So some people are still confused. So it is a great topic. But what we'll do is we'll just fucking... Oh, I'm swelling everything. Sorry for the bad language, everyone. Sunday... it's a Sunday night here and climbing the walls in this pandemic thing. But anyway, we'll go right into it, and we'll talk about writing content for your audience. So do you want to kick off just giving us some tips about writing content for your audience and some of the kind of things that you come across, some of the mistakes that you're seeing people making?
Yeah, and I think that, the number one thing you need to think about when you're writing content for your blog, for your site, for anything, is you need to think, what do people who are interested in my offerings, so that's my products or my services, what are they interested in? So what are the types of things that I can write about that my audience will like? And more importantly, what my audience will actually read fully or watch fully and then actually perform an action. So it's really about getting to your audience, but moving them also down the funnel so that they will end up doing business with you. And a lot of people, a lot of firms, they still get this wrong because they're under the impression that, wow, okay, we need to have a blog post every single week. Okay, the rough topic is going to be X, Y, and Z, but we need to get it out there. And that is, in my opinion, the wrong approach. And I think that when you think of the fact that people are like, okay, well, fresh content is so important. So we need to always have fresh content out there. But you got to think about it from a realistic point of view in terms of your audience. Like, is your audience going to have time each week to read a random post about something that may or may not be relevant to the offerings that you're providing or things that will be helpful for them? So really, the number one thing you need to do initially is just know who your audience are. You need to know what kind of stuff do they want. And then within your content, doesn't matter what it is, you need to find ways to kind of pull them in, grab them into the content so that they're engaged with it, and then always including things like call to action and other like internal linking to your main kind of service pages and whatnot. So that's like understanding your audience. Like if you're a business that doesn't understand your audience, then that's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. So wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I'd agree. You've obviously got to understand your audience. Like, for example, me, I understand that most people will come to me for informational content, because I do training and stuff like that. It's more tutorial-based stuff. The content is written in a different way than it would be from a sales point of view. So, yeah, you've got to understand your audience and obviously try and match the intent of what the user's going to be doing while they're, dealing with that content, whether that's going to be making a purchase or whatever it's going to be at the end of the the sales spiel, if you like, that's on your page. But yeah, I mean, very often I see websites and people have just got just absolute garbage on there, and I think sometimes they hear freshness of content's good, which it is. I'm not saying it's not, but I think sometimes people, blog for the sheer hell of blogging, if you like, and it gets a bit, just that's a bit, non-relevant and non-interesting. No one really is interested in reading anything other than, for me, I like football. I'm a big football fan. And what things do a football fan like to see? It'll be transfer deals, rumours, what's going on. I don't need to know how many office staff, Man United have hired for their ticket office or, anything like that. It's got to be, something that's going to grab me. That is mostly always going to be about the kind of playing squad or transfer side of things. Or something that's happened in training, whether someone's get injured or some kind of gossip, if you like. And I think football's a good analogy. You don't see football clubs, posting too much about what's going on in the community, or how many seeds the groundsman laid on the turf that week. These kind of things. You could essentially do it. It's kind of semi-relevant, but no one's interested. It's not. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? They just want to know who's playing on Saturday, and what's the chances of getting a result, and who are we buying next week or next month or next transfer window, things like that. And I think that matches, and it keeps them engaged. And obviously, those metrics do help in your rankings anyway. So keeping people engaging, something we've obviously had to talk about over the last few weeks. Even when it comes to YouTube or whatever. Keep people interested, keep people engaged. That's the nature of the beast, which is why we want all of you guys to watch this video right to the end so that you pick up all the knowledge bombs that we're going to give, and some tools for content marketing will be dropping at the end of it as well, that may help you along the way. So it's all about engagement, in my opinion, and making sure that engagement is right for that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spot on. And obviously the analogy you gave with football is quite interesting because when you're talking about, how often should you be posting content? Because that's something that people ask so much because obviously the point you mentioned previously about the freshness of content. So what is it that you would advise somebody if they were to ask you about how often you should post content if you don't know their niche?
I would probably, I hate saying it, it really does depend. If you're starting from scratch and all of your competition have got thousands of pages, then I would say you better get your finger out and get a lot more content, because from this point of view, more content equals more keywords. And sometimes with a website, when it comes to commercial use, we'll forget about the football thing for a minute, but if you're selling products, and you've got thousands of products, then make sure that you rank and get the content right for all of those kind of top end keywords. But it's an evolving job. If I say to you, write 5 a week or 5 a month, and you stick to that and say, well, why didn't you tell me I could write 10 a month? There is no upper limit as such right at the start. Get your content on there, target your keywords. If you are starting from scratch. However, if you have got a marketing role within a company, and it's a case of, someone comes into my website, for example, and I've already got hundreds of blogs, we don't need to hit the ground so hard in terms of content. What I would say is try and put out, between 5 and 10 really good articles per month. I don't think you should look at the figure and think that you've got to, because someone else has got 1,000, that you have to have 1,000. I think quality over quantity, and making sure that quality and engagement that you have with the people is all good. And I think also to add to that, what is content? Content is not just 1,000 words on your blog post. You could add a video to it. You could add some nice images. You could add, a whole ton of other stuff. Videos. This is content, what we're doing right now. And we're taking time to do it. It's something you just have to get a system in place, a time in place, and dates in place. and get a system and get that content out there. But also, as I say, some people might like reading, some people may prefer watching a video. So that's where you could have multiple pieces of content for the same thing, if you know what I mean. What about yourself? What would you advise people?
Yeah, I think that, like you mentioned, there's so many different types of content, and initially, if you're just starting out, you may not know exactly what type of content your audience likes to see. But what you can do is like you mentioned, Craig, embedding videos and taking the time, really putting in the effort to make quality content, because there's a lot of posts and there's a lot of pages on the web, and people make posts for the sake of making posts, right? But they won't rank for anything. They won't get any traffic. They're just there as kind of placeholders. And that's not the right approach. So if you do take the time to really curate a bunch of great pieces of content, but also trying things out like with videos. So if you have a blog post that might take 15 minutes to read, why don't you just record a video and summarize it within 2 to 3 minutes? And then you can place that at the top, and you can say, okay, here's a summary. If you want to continue reading, you can continue reading below. You just got to really make it, something for everyone, if that makes sense, right? So using different multimedia, whether it's videos, whether it's images, infographics, what have you, all of that is just helping more types of people who have different preferences to access your content and actually to kind of decode what the message is that you're sending to them. And obviously, on the flip side, content that's just words, that can be a bit boring, right? No one really wants to see just words with no images. It just looks like I'm reading some, financial accounts or something, just with more words as opposed to numbers, right? But obviously, if you're adding the multimedia in there, that's also going to be increasing your engagement, because let's say somebody has read the post, or let's say they want to watch the video first because they just want to get an idea of what it's about. They watch the video and they think, wow, this 2-minute video, this is great. Let me read the full thing and get more insights. So that's the kind of thing, hopefully, that's like the perfect audience, right there. Somebody who is going to stay engaged on your post, watch like a full 2-minute, 3-minute video, and then continue to read the entire piece of the content. And that's the kind of stuff that you want. So I definitely think that there is more to content than just writing words and just blog posts.
Yeah, which brings us on nicely into the next topic that we're going to discuss. But before we just go into that, I do want to say, if there's anyone watching who is really good at content writing, we're asked regularly all the time, do you know any good content writers? Leave a comment on, leave your, something on the comments with a link to your website or your social media or something like that. Give us a message, because we're always looking for good content writers. Not personally, but I've got friends in the industry who are always saying, Craig, tell me a good content writer. And, if you are, offering content writing services, there's lots of people looking for your skills out there. So make sure you do drop something in the comment, and also we like and subscribe as well. Wouldn't go amiss. But building engagement, which is what we're trying to do with our channel here and on our videos. We want to talk to the audience. We want ideas from the audience. We want to come back and answer questions later on. You may have seen what we've got to say here. You may want to ask us something, and that's all about building engagement. And that's what life's all about, being able to ask questions, interact with people, find out, scratch under the surface and find out, something, that sets it right in your head. And that's something that is really good, whether it's from a web page point of view, engagement is really important, or whether it's from a YouTube point of view, it's still really important. And building engagement and opening yourself up to debate, questions, answers, and all of that stuff is always going to... Those engagement metrics are really important. And as I say, it also is really important for us to be able to hear other people, questioning stuff, because we might not be, we might be sitting on a webinar delivering stuff and maybe not delivering it the best we can, in terms of knowledge-wise. So even that engagement helps us refine the information that we give out in future episodes. And that's what's really good about engagement. Regardless of who you are or whatever, there's always going to be room for improvement. But it's also good to interact with people and pick up little points and different points of view. And I think building engagement is something I'm quite conscious of, in particular with YouTube. I mean, I do go to conferences, I do go to networking events, I do spend time speaking to people, so I do build engagement that way. But I think there's not a lot of people that are building engagement online as such. Building an engaged YouTube channel, for example. I know people do have engaged Facebook groups and stuff like that, and that's why Facebook groups are also a very good, part of business, if you like. So regardless of what angle you're looking at, building that engagement is key. But Itamar, what ways, is there any specific tips in building engagement that you could suggest?
Yeah, I think the number one thing with engagement is you have to be proactive. Like, you need to get into any kind of medium that that there will be people or somebody who you're trying to target, or whether that's for building professional relationships with other people, whether that's just networking, whether it's just getting your name out there. So what I used to do, which worked for me a lot, is Twitter, because Twitter is like a really popular tool still for SEO and for people in the industry. So, I could start off as a nobody, but I would just engage. Like, there's things that I'm good at, and I will just engage on different people's posts, on different hashtags that people are using, if it's like a Twitter chat or stuff like that. Getting your name out there is really, really important. And it doesn't matter if you're doing this under an individual or you're doing this under like your company, because as soon as people start seeing familiar faces crop up, then people will start to notice you more, and they'll start to respect you more, and then they'll follow you, and then they'll actually be more interested in the stuff that you're saying. So engagement's really important, and that's also something that you mentioned before we're trying to do on this channel. It's not just about us giving the one-to-many communication model. We want people to actively be giving us feedback and engaging with us, and seeing regular people, like in the comments, just asking questions and discussing, sharing feedback. So if you really want to build engagement, you have to be proactive, get out there. And once you obviously know where your audience are, then it makes it a lot easier to build that engagement, because you've kind of done the hard work already, right? Now it's just a matter of being able to get your content and putting it out in the relevant channels. So that's what I would do personally to build engagement. But now we're kind of moving to the next kind of bit, which is about which platforms you do want to choose. So it's really, really important that people get this right, because when you create content, you don't just put it up on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube, whatever. Like, you shouldn't just go for that straight away, right? So let's just say that we've got this niche that may not be popular on LinkedIn, for instance. So what do? We can check Reddit. We can check all of these kind of online brand communities. So that's why Reddit, I think, is a great platform, as it's a forum where there's so many different types of niches, so many topics. So you're likely to find a subreddit that's related to your niche. So definitely go check that out. Start engaging on it. Start just sharing snippets of your content, right? You don't want to go on and just put links to anything, because people just automatically associate, if they see like anything posted that's just a link, they'll associate it as just spam, right? They think, okay, this person doesn't give a damn about anything here. They're just going to drop this link and leave, right? So, you want to be giving knowledge to people first and foremost, right? So say you've got a really good piece of content on your blog, you want to start answering people's questions, right? You want to start creating posts, engaging in threads. It doesn't even have to be on Reddit. It could be on Twitter, could be on Facebook, what have you. But the most important thing is really, if you're trying to pick a platform, pick something that you can easily start engaging with people. Because some platforms, it's a bit harder, right? You can't just, let's say, if we're using the example of Reddit, you're not just going to go on any subreddit with like hundreds of thousands of people and you're just going to kind of post your stuff there. It has to be relevant to what you're doing. So that's how I'd personally choose the platforms that when I'm trying to share my content. Craig, do you have anything to add?
Not really as such. I mean, I think, as you say, there's certain platforms that work better than others. I find engagement on LinkedIn to be pretty poor. People read, they watch videos. In terms of engagement, they don't engage that well, and I'm not sure, if they just are too busy. And it's obviously business. The purpose of LinkedIn is supposed to be, business to business and non-Facebooky type posts and just informational. So I'm not sure if that's a problem. So I'm probably less frequent on there. But yeah, I mean, I post on the places where I get the most traction, which would be Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Get a bit of reaction on there. So yeah, I mean, it's all about putting out the best things for your niche. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Twitter. Just think it's crap and people talk crap on there and people, you've got all the keyboard warriors on there and stuff like that as well. So Twitter for me, I mean, listen, I know the mega threads on there and I know there's a lot of good people on there and, I still use it from time to time, but it's not where I get a lot of engagement as such. So yeah, each to their own. Everyone's different. Everyone kind of has their own little quirks and their own favourite platforms as well. But as you say, it's about building that engagement. And regardless, I mean, I wouldn't settle for one. I would always look to try everything out. Don't even, even for me, don't snuff TikTok. Someone said to me when I was out in India, you on TikTok? And I'm like, what the hell is TikTok? And then I thought, and they were like, oh, you should get on it. You should get on it. And I'm like, I can't be bothered getting on it. Like, I've already got enough. I've got WhatsApp, Skype, Zoom, all the other channels that I've got. And I'm like, I don't need another one, but don't snuff it. If you can get traffic from anything, then do it. And even platforms like Quora and stuff like that, Quora, where people can ask questions, you can give answers. It can certainly drive traffic to your website as well. So yeah, anything that drives traffic and exposure, I would be all over it. Give them all a go, and that includes paid sources as well. It's not just about which platforms do you promote your products on. You do have the ability to do some paid promotion as well and get all over that just to accelerate your growth if budget allows. So that is another consideration for you. But also, going on to the last thing that we're going to talk about, before I talk about a couple of wee tools and stuff that I can suggest for people, repurposing content. Now, what you said, Itamar, is there's lots of platforms out there. However, I don't necessarily, and I'm not sure you are actually saying this, but just in case anyone picks it up in that way, I've got actually a process where if I'm going to release a blog post, or if I've got content, it's going on my website first, and I'm making sure it gets indexed first. Because if you were to go out there and smash it all out, within 5 minutes on LinkedIn, Reddit, and Twitter, and all that kind of stuff, Reddit might get crawled and indexed first, and your website's going to look as if it's got duplicate content. So you need to make sure that your website is the first thing that any of your content goes on. You can then go and share it in LinkedIn and all the other ones, but make sure that you don't fall into the trap of, because I used to do it, post an article on the blog, copy and paste it and shove it on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn would get the credit for it. Mine wasn't even getting indexed. So that's just a rookie mistake. And that it wasn't even me that done it, actually. It was just my processes weren't right, and I got someone to do it. And then I'm like, why the hell am I not moving? Why is all my content not ranking? And that was the reason. So just be careful when you're doing it. You can repurpose content, old content and put it out, or share snippets on the likes of LinkedIn or whatever as well, and use that one main content piece that you've got in your blog and snip it all up and cut, give bits of it away in different platforms or whatever. It's entirely up to yourself, but mix it all up. Don't just do a copy and paste job, and make sure that you are aware that your website has to be the first port of call, because that's your main asset.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get into the whole, it's kind of like a kid in a sweet shop, right? Like as soon as you get that post live on your blog, you're like, okay, cool. Like now I need to straight away go on Twitter, go on Facebook, go on LinkedIn, post the links straight away. But like you mentioned, you've got to have a bit of patience, really, and either that's patience coming from you manually, or it's patience that you've put in a process, right? So you can say, okay, once this is indexed, we're going to be posting it on this platform here. Some platforms prefer much shorter form content. So for example, on Twitter, maybe we just post a cool infographic and then just add like another comment with the full link of the post. You've got to really try these things out. But obviously, like you mentioned, old content can also be repurposed. And there's always things you can do with old content, such as just update it if it's still partially relevant, but maybe there's something that's changed in your niche or the topic of the post that you've put out. Just give it an update, and then you can literally kind of release it saying how it's been updated after X, Y, and Z. You've updated it for this year. That's something that a lot of people still neglect. So, if you're looking at your content from last year, from the year before, even the year before that, whenever, see if there's anything that you can add, update, get the content updated, get it more fresh. And then from that, you can repurpose it, get more engagement, especially if it has been ranking well anyway. You want to maximize the most of the traffic that you can get to any of your pieces of content. So find something that's doing well, and then just kind of add to it. Try and at least kind of penetrate for the traffic that you can get to that whilst it's still hot, whilst it's still a good topic. But on the flip side, if there's something that, is old content, not really getting much traction, there's nothing, it doesn't hurt just to kind of share it if it's still relevant, right? It doesn't hurt just to put it up. Like,
there's always a way to update it. For example, if I had an article about content marketing that I posted 2 or 3 years ago, obviously content marketing's evolved, where you've now got tools like Quora, Page Optimizer Pro, or Surfer SEO. They're all different tools that analyze content against the competition and give you an idea of how many words you should write and all that kind of stuff. And an article 2 or 3 years ago won't know what these tools are, so you can go in and say, here are the tools I recommend today. You can also add in FAQs. Make sure that everyone puts an article out there. Could it be better? Is it perfect? Absolutely no. People are rolling out stuff at a high pace, and I think adding FAQs is a perfect thing. So you can also, add your schema and get the kind of answer box snippets and all that kind of stuff as well, and drive traffic in that way as well. So improving that content, but also potentially, adding in tools that can help you with content marketing. I think SEMrush have got the SEO content I can't remember the exact name of it.
Content template or something?
Content template, yeah. Surfer SEO and various others. So there's a lot of good tools out there. If you really want to take your content marketing serious, and people are always want to know how many words should I be writing. Don't guess. Don't just listen to what some random guy said. Use the tool to see what your competition are writing, and it will tell you how many words they've wrote, how many title tags they've used, or header tags, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you can basically better that. You've got a template there saying, right, here's what Itamar's got. It's 1,000 words long, and he's got 3 header tags in there, and he's got 4 internal links. Cool. Well, I'm going to write 1,500 words, and I'm going to have 6 different titles. I'm going to have an FAQs, and I'm going to have a video, and I'm going to beat his ass all day long. And that's the nature of the game. But that's what the tools do. And I know people don't always want to pay for tools. You can use your eye as well, but if you're relatively inexperienced and you don't know how many words you have to write or whatever, then it's a great option to use those tools. So we will put links to those tools in the information below. But sadly, Itamar, we are out of time for this episode. But we will be back next week. What's next week's topic?
Next week's topic's on-page SEO, so that should be a fun one.
Yeah, so that should be fun. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. We will come back and answer them. And please do give us a subscribe and like and anything else that you want to put on there. So from Itamar and myself, thank you very much.